You're listening to The Broken Meeple Show, a podcast that speaks passionately about board games for the benefit of those who play them. My name's Luke Hector, best known for the Broken Meeple YouTube channel, and I'm an everyday gamer just like you. And I'll be talking about reviews, top 10s, and just about anything that connects me to board games, as long as I have a tea or coffee in hand, that is. So grab a cup, relax, and enjoy. And remember, it's only a game. Hi everyone, Luke Hector here. Another podcast episode for 30th of November 2025. Nearly getting to the end of 25. What happened to this year? It has just rocketed by. I mean, Essen is already long behind us, and now it's like, right, trying to get all the games played from Essen, as well as, think about next year in terms of, updates to the channel, or doing the top 50 again, doing the top 10 of the year, which I got to admit, I am contemplating whether to do that in January rather than December. I know a lot of people like to rush them out before Christmas, but there's a lot of games. If you want to give them the beans, you really do need to consider waiting and giving yourself Christmas to, play a few more of them and that. But I don't know, we'll cross that bridge in a few weeks' time, depending how long it takes to get through the games I've got. Normally, I tend to do a revised list halfway through the year to catch up on the ones that I didn't get played before. I didn't do that for the last year. I'm not sure I did it for the year before either, because things didn't really change that much. But we'll see if that has any impact with this particular year. But yeah, otherwise, still working through notice period, and I'll start a new job in Feb, so looking forward to that. There's a new change, a new era for 2026, hopefully improvements across the board. Channel-wise, will stay kind of the same. I mean, I'd like to try some of the other content I want to do, like tier maker, live streams, and stuff like that. It's just, every time I try to come up with the idea, it's then time. If I was doing this as a full-time thing, it would be easy, but when you're trying to do it as a hobby, and doing it on the side to working a full-time professional job, it's not easy. Not easy if you want to maintain any kind of a social life. Certainly, it's certainly difficult to maintain a love life with it. But it's just, yeah, I do come up with these ideas and then struggle to fulfill them. But it would be nice to at least get maybe one of them, done. And the tier maker live streams, I think, would be quite cool, because then I could do things like, my favorite Art Nova maps, my favorite SETI, corporations, my favorite spirits on Spirit Island. I mean, I think I actually did that once already, so maybe I wouldn't need to do that one per se. But you know what I mean. I could actually do some alternative content just to, I don't know, just liven things up a bit, because otherwise everything else will stay kind of the same, except the intro will change. And I don't mean that I'll change it from the music wise. Nah, it's just, you'll have noticed that every time I mark a new season for a calendar year, you notice that the photos that I use in the intro to showcase games, they chop and change at the start of the year. So when we start 2026, I'll have updated the intro to introduce different games. It's kind of my way of sort of instantly telling, oh yeah, that was the 2024 year because it had that game in the title, or that's 2025 because that's got Deep Rock Galactic in the picture and that only came out the year before. So it's like, it's stuff like that. But otherwise, yeah, things will kind of be just normal. Otherwise, I seem to be eating a lot of roast dinners. I mean, I've gone to Toby Carvery's, I think, twice in the last week. I'm going again this week with some mates. And I've been getting sent offers for, like, cheap carveries. And why would you not have a cheap roast carvery? I mean, roast dinners are amazing. Roast dinners are amazing. So, given that, I suppose the American population watching the show has either going through or just had Thanksgiving. I forget when exactly you have it, but so happy Thanksgiving, I guess. But yeah, you obviously know what a good roast dinner is like, so a good turkey dinner. It's the same thing over here. We love them and I love them. So I even cooked one last Friday for mates. Had 3 mates around. We played Covenant. Not going to give too many impressions on that. It's middle of the road so far, but I've played some more solo games, and I'm going to play more multiplayer games this week. So the idea with that one is that I will do a speed review for that one at some point. It's not a review copy, so a speed review is what you're getting effectively, and it should be enough to cover what I have to say about it. I've actually said some initial thoughts on Instagram and Facebook already, so you can always check out those. But yeah, so far it's kind of meh. It's nothing that I don't think it's anything to get excited about. But we'll see if more plays multiplayer improve it. I do think it improved for me when I played it solo. I think the solo mode's not bad in it, actually. And certainly I think it's a game that favors playing it with less players rather than more. So I could see it being maybe more of a 1 to 2 player game rather than a 3 to 4. But as I say, we'll see what the future plays this week at 3 and 4 have to show, and we'll solidify my thoughts in that regard later. But yeah, there's plenty more to come on the channel front. I mean, Jesus. So, 26843, we have climbed a little bit since last time, mainly because I'm able to get some of the video content out now after being back from Essen. But thanks to people who are checking out the recent videos, you'll notice a Wild Venture is currently uploaded but not ready for release. It will get released, I suspect, tomorrow. So a Wild Venture will get its speed review then. SETI Space Agencies has come out, so thanks to everybody who is watching that. I mean, that is getting more views than To Buy. To Buy was a review that took me hours to edit and is a 50-minute review. It's like the longest review I have done to date. And that's got 2,000 views. The SETI Space Agencies is an expansion for a game that's mostly good variety, and that's got 3.5 nearly, three and a quarter thousand views, and that's been out for a day less than that one. So yeah, it goes to show that not every big game is necessarily popular. I mean, To Buy, you can check out my full thoughts in the video, but regardless of whether you hate its guts or whether you're a mega fan of it, you have to admit that it's going to be a niche title. Only so many people are going to be able to play the game because of what the type of game it is. So you have to accept that sort of thing. But quite a few since last time. So we had Lost Lumina from Dranda Games. By all means, that's a very quick review. Check that one out. March of the Ants got a full review. People requested that one heavily on the Patreon, so I brought that one out. To Buy was another one requested by Patreons. And of course, everybody wanted to know about SETI Space Agencies, and certainly I wanted to dig into it quick, so I did that one. On the cards, though, in the editing room, let's see, I have the AR remove, AYAR. That speed review is in the editing room. That will probably come after a Wild Venture. And there was also another one that I've done. Which one was it? I know there was another speed review I'd done. I just can't for the life of me remember which one it was. AR was one. How can I not remember? I'm brain farting. Oh well. I'll try to remember it, but yeah, it's kind of not coming to me. But as for other stuff that I'm ready to consider reviewing, like I say, Covenant, I'll get to reviewing that one this week. I've also been playing some Star Wars Unlimited, the one from Fantasy Flight Games, the TCG. Yes, I will not get into another TCG, but you can play the starter decks and mess around with a few boosters, so you can still get an idea of the game without having to get fully into it. So I been doing that, and I'll give you my thoughts on Star Wars Unlimited. I've been playing specifically the Secrets of Power boosters. Asmodee kindly sent me a bunch of stuff for it, so I'll be basing it on that perspective. But given that they're already doing set rotation for the game, and it's only been out for a year and a bit, that's yeah, maybe it's more current than you think. Honestly, set rotation for a game that's barely been out a year and a half, if that. That's insane. I mean, by the time you've even registered the fact you bought something, suddenly it's now no longer legal for tournament play. That just sounds like a price gouging, tactic more than anything else. But this is one of many reasons I will not focus hard on a TCG ever again. It's just not going to happen. I have been there, done that, bought the t-shirt with several games. They were fun to do as a kid, between friends when it wasn't about tournament play, but I've tried Magic tournaments, I've done Netrunner tournaments, and I have met some cool people from doing it, and I've enjoyed the games. But I have also met some of the scum of the earth. I have also had death threats. I have also come across people who I swear social skills are a tertiary concern in their personal development. So yes, I have come across a lot of crap from doing TCG tournament play and stuff like that. What do they call it? It's not called tournament play. It's called limited play. I forget the term, but basically the term when you're playing it seriously as opposed to playing it for fun. I have come across some people that have nearly put me off gaming in the past. So, by all means, I'm not going down that route again. So if I play a TCG, it's going to be fun. I'll buy a starter deck, keep the game, and that's it. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole again. Nothing's going to convince me otherwise. But otherwise, what else? let's see. That was Covenant and Star Wars Limited. I'm currently learning Children of the Colossi. That's on the table right now, so that's on the table being learnt. I hope to get that played and reviewed before Christmas. That would be nice. Limit from Ludonaught Games is down there. I'm really eager to tap into that one, actually, because that will be the final game from Ludonaught Games that I ever review, because they're no longer operating. So, yeah, that's going to be a sad swan song, especially if I don't like the game. What else is down there? Ember Heart. Ember Heart, yes, from Mind Clash. I would like to do a speed review on that one. It's not a review copy, but I'd like to talk about that one because I'm very curious if Mind Clash can actually do a simple game. Anything else? No, there's other games I can see dotted around. I mean, I've got the Windmill Valley expansion to look at. I've got the Underwater Cities expansion to look at. I've got Epona, Delicious Games, Vladimir Suhi. And probably one or two others, although I am starting to get to the bottom of that pile. Oh yeah, and Miskatonic Tales. Yeah. People, actually, Patrons, this is one for you, actually. I'll just go off the screen a sec. Patrons, there is a reason why I haven't got to Miskatonic Tales yet. I know you requested it. I mean, you requested ones I've already done more heavily when I asked, but where you also had Miskatonic Tales on there, and the reason I haven't got to it yet is because the company who sells it, Chaosium, have not yet released the app that goes with it that has audio immersion in it. If you're going to play a story-based narrative game and your cover has the words immersive audio included, I expect to play the game with the audio included. Now, according to some friends on BGG, they are literally on the doorstep of setting it up. Releasing it. So I think it's literally with the final testers and that's it. So I'm hoping that they will release it before the end of this year so I can actually do a proper review with the audio included. If it starts getting a little bit strapped for time, I will seek out to just do it without the audio, but it's going to be a shame because it'll be a knock on the game, because if you promise audio and you don't have it ready for release, that's on you. That's bad planning. That's that's the fault of, that's something that people would want to have in the game. And if you bought the game and found out that the app wasn't ready yet, you'd be kind of ticked off, wouldn't you? So and I want to play it with the audio because I'm going to be playing it solo, but I'll also play it with groups. If I'm playing it with groups, it's not a big deal, but if I'm playing it solo, I want audio narration. There's some other games I play with audio narration, and they're great. It's much better to have it. So I'm hoping, please, Chaosium, will you hurry up and release the app with the audio on it? It makes a big difference. I mean, Awakened Realms did audio with some of their stuff. I think Embervale. Was it Embervale? No, sorry. I'm getting all these things called Ember something. What was the one I reviewed a while back? I'm going to need to borrow Board Game Geek for a second. Publisher, Awaken Realms. It was a preview I did. I can't believe I'm not remembering names right now, but let's have a look and see if I can find it. So, Awaken Realms, come on, submit, find it. Not Tainted Ground, not Nemesis, no, Lords of Hell's Nemesis, Castle of Burgundy, Canvas. Why is that on the Awaken Realms page? I don't know. Nemesis, there it is, Lands of Evershade. That was it, Lands of Evershade. It was a RPG board game, and I'm pretty certain that one had audio narration in it, and it works. Audio narration is cool. I like it in games. I want it more often. So yeah, plenty of stuff on the horizon. Bear with me, I'm getting to it. It's hard work. This is the period after Essen, the 2 months to Christmas, is so much effort for the block. It really is, and there's no guarantee I'll get every single game done before Christmas. I'm pretty certain I will not be able to if I want to give them a fair hearing, but it would be nice to at least play some of them so that I could get them ready for a top 10 of the year. But this is why I said it might spill into January, because if I want to play enough of these games, I need the time. That's the thing. I don't have a spouse to play with me 24/7. It doesn't, and even then, that honestly doesn't really work for me because, well, let me put it this way. I would love a spouse who played board games, who wanted to play games with me 24/7. Okay, that would be fantastic. But what I'm getting at is that a lot of people review games purely from the perspective of them playing with their other spouse. And that's fine if you're watching them purely to get a 2-player perspective. But the problem is they'll have their very specific tastes, and it will just be those two as opposed to one of them and one of somebody else. And also, a lot of games change dramatically when you play it at 2-player compared to multiplayer. And so you don't get the multiplayer perspective from people who just play games 2-player all the time. So it's a double-edged sword, but So, I mean, as much as I would love a gaming spouse who wanted to play games with me a lot, I would also have to go to the club and actually play a multiplayer every now and again. It's just a fact. So, yeah, lots to do, but thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel if you're a Patreon. And to be fair, even if you're engaging in the comments, you are supporting the channel because you're helping the algorithm to figure out that I exist. But you know, it's just nice to get engagement with a lot of you. There's been good comments, a high proportion of likes, very few trolls. I mean, I think I had one troll on the pickup review. That was about it. You know, because I didn't realize the button at the top was a thing. Hey, look, okay, I missed it, all right. But to be frank, does anybody care about that product? All right, that product, you know, the review was done in a rush and, you know, kind of half satire in a sense because, you know, nobody cared about this product really, and you know, most people were sort of crying out scam on the internet. It's not a scam. I mean, it does exist, but yeah, I mean, everybody I know who has had one of those has pretty much regretted getting one. So I wouldn't worry too much on that front. But yeah, generally it's been pretty fine with the channel. So, recently I attended Gridcon. Yes, Gridcon is Paul Grogan's like convention that he does personally. So yep, that was good fun. November 21st to 23rd, 25. That's why there was no videos for a short period because I was very busy going home to visit the parents and buy all my cider from Sheppy's, go Taunton, and also attend this convention from like Thursday through to I mean, it's technically Friday to Sunday, but a few of us turn up on Thursday. It's mostly for Gridcon Patreons, but you know, some members of the public are allowed. You know, it's kind of like a fixed ticket system, and you know, Paulie does give himself a brain aneurysm every year trying to organise it. Him and Victoria and all the rest. I mean, it's you know, it's when you run a convention, it's not easy. And I've never run one, but fair play to anybody who does. I can already, you cannot mistake how much of an effort it is to run a board game convention. But yeah, it's a fun convention. You know, we get sponsored demos, of which I taught Spirited a couple of times there as a favor. And you know, they get a good library, they get hot games in that are laid out so you can just turn up, learn the rules yourself, and have play them. Yeah, so there's where we got secondary Spirited from Spirited somewhere. Oh, it was called Top Secret New Game from Garfield Games, demo run by Luke Hector. Yeah, that was because for ages we weren't allowed to even mention anything about Spirited until Garfield Games announced it. So I basically had a sponsored demo listing on there that said Top Secret Game with Luke. How many of you would sign up to a demo that was literally just called Top Secret New Game? I mean, that's just a. I mean, I was kind of asking for it really, but yeah, it plays in the Holiday Inn back in Taunton. It's not a bad little venue, a bit pricey, but certainly with the accommodation. But you do get a health club bolted onto it. So I stayed in a cheap hotel for like £30 a night, about 5 minutes away. I was like, I mean, I'm sorry, but you know, got to cut my costs somehow. But you know, it is quite convenient if you do stay there. You know, you get a breakfast and everything else, and at least you're on site. But I like the fact, I do miss the fact you get the health club on the side, and the health club has a gym and a pool. Not like a massive pool, but a pool that you can do lengths in. And yeah, if I stayed at this place, I have in the past used the health club as a lunchtime unwind. So get up in the morning, do one, maybe two games, you know, depending on the length of them and the teach. And then I take a break, go in there for about an hour, chill out, whatever, get some food, and come back refreshed, you know, hydrated and all that, and start the rest of the day. Because frankly, you do need to take a break with these. I was getting a lot of headaches during this convention, and the headaches have been fairly frequently lately, and I don't think they are. I don't think they're dehydration headaches, because I was trying to keep hydrated, but I feel they could be irregular sleep pattern related, or maybe it's just the noise levels. I mean, it can be noisy at times. It's stuffy in some rooms. I mean, it could literally just be a case that the noise and the heat gets to me and gives me headaches, because it does. Not necessarily too much noise, but definitely heat. Too much heat when I'm not prepared for it does sort of cook the brain a bit. That's why I don't like going to hot countries. I like going to cold ones. And speaking of which, a viewer came up and gave me some little biscuit things, gingerbread biscuits, and these little cake things, jam cakes from Sweden. Thank you very much for those. Those went down a treat. They were very tasty. But yeah, I would like to actually get to visit Sweden and Finland at some point. I mean, I've been to Norway enough times, and I love Norway, but I need to do the rest of Scandinavia now, preferably in their cold seasons. It would be nice, but to be fair, I'd still go to them in the summer. I mean, Norway was nice in the summer with the fjords. I don't know. Actually, I mean, yeah, if you're from Sweden or Finland, is it better to visit you in the summer or the winter? Granted, chances are with my timetable, I would probably end up visiting you in the spring or the autumn to be more accurate. But what I'm getting at is it better to like go to you when it's summer, like when it's the hottest you're going to be, or is it better to go to you when you're winter wonderland? Kind of curious. But yes, yeah, it's a good convention. It ran fine. Played a lot of games there. So trying to think what games I did. But obviously, I had to go with my customary game of hegemony. Yes, a big hegemony game. Played that and oh, I enjoyed that immensely. I mean, that was a good, fun game. Three people that I hadn't met before the convention, and it just, yeah, it did what a hegemony game should do. Lots of banter, lots of backstabbing, lots of negotiation, and a good, comfortable win for me as the capitalist. I don't often win with the capitalist, so that was a good plus for me. But yeah, I was able to get a TV studio and a radio show up and running. So my production at first was a little bit lower, but I eventually built that up by building a lot of food. So I didn't deal a lot in education, or oh no, I had some education. I had pretty much no healthcare for the whole game, but I had some education. I had some mobile phones, but I had a ton of food. I had three separate establishments that had food, and I didn't even buy any automated companies. I automated to make. I improved a couple of companies, but I didn't actually get any proper automated companies. So I had to pay wages. But because of the purple cubes I was getting, the influence cubes, and my knowledge of the game, that as the capitalist and the working class, if you are not aggressive with the policies, you will lose. You cannot sit by and just let the policies do their own thing. I was able to get wages low on a relatively frequent basis, but more to the point, I was able to get tax at lowest point and keep it there for a good couple of rounds or something, usually because of sniping the policy as the last action of the fifth turn. It's a good tactic in the game. If there's a policy you really need to operate now, prep for it during the round, and as your last turn, as long as your plans haven't got to divert anywhere, snipe a policy proposal with an influence cube to make it immediate, because if you can win that policy, it takes effect immediately before it kicks in, and it can have drastic effects on the game. And the only person who can react to it afterwards is the state, and if they're not in a position to do that, then you get away with murder, effectively. So, I mean, I had two rounds, I think, where the tax marker was at 1. Right, this thing goes up to 11. So I had it at 1 on 2 sessions in a row. I didn't care if healthcare was free. I didn't have any to sell anyway. Education was, I think, the middle of the road, but it didn't matter because those bits didn't count. Tax marker was at 1. I giggled when the state was complaining about not having enough money and worried that they were going to go IMF. And the IMF never intervened. I actually had to work to keep them afloat because I wasn't convinced that them going solvent would actually help me as much. But plus, I wanted to get the state person on my side a little bit because the others were kind of taking money off him. And it's like, look, I'm your friend. I'm your friend. Loyal capitalist. So that kind of, this is how hegemony goes. But, oh God, I remember giving him employment tax and corporation tax, which is normally quite a lot in the game if your tax marker is even at 5. And I've ever said, here's £28. That was it. 28 quid, bucks, whatever the currency of the game is in your mind. 28. That was my total tax in round 4 or 5. So, I mean, I couldn't help but sort of snigger a bit. It's kind of like, here you go, here's your tax. I couldn't keep a straight face. It was great. But yeah, this was a fun game. Probably the highlight of the convention. It's always great. I love it. I shouldn't love it, but I do. It's one of those weird games. It's one of those weird things that just works for me. Every time I play it, I have a laugh. It was just a good, fun game, win or lose. Okay, what else did I play at the convention? There was a weird little party game that Graham brought. It was like you had these signs that you put together. One was like an item and one was a verbal description or personality trait or something. And you put them together and you had to draw it in 20 seconds and I hope that people could guess it. Funny, and I remember having to draw a broken chipmunk at one point, which was interesting because I cannot draw, let alone in 20 seconds. So You can imagine what monstrosity that thing looked like. In fact, did I put it on my Instagram? Maybe. I'm not sure. But I can't remember for the life of me what it was called. Got to play a lot of games of the gang, though. Oh, yes. Thank God I missed playing this, because it's hard to find people who understand poker or even don't understand poker and still like the game because it is a divisive one. But I get a kick out of playing the gang. I love Texas Hold'em poker. So this co-op version always, always like I'm always never wanting to turn it down. I must have got a good 5 or 6 games of this in during the con. And yeah, it just goes over well with me. I love Texas Hold'em poker, so I love the thinkiness that you get from this, understanding why people would take those chips at specific times. I've done a review of this game, so you can find out more there. But yeah, I love this, so I was always glad to get to play it. Recall. I finally got a chance to try this. Now, Recall is on my pile, but it was a personal bought pile, and an extortionate one at that. But, I will do a review for this at some point. It's too big to do a speed review, though. But the thing is, it is not a review copy. I don't know. At some point, maybe it will have to be a full review. We shall see. But the problem is I need to play it more. I haven't got round to it yet. This is probably one that's going to spill into January, honestly. I don't think I can get round to this one pre-Christmas. So if you're thinking of buying it, hold your horses for a bit. But I'll give you a first impressions. It's basically Revive. Yeah, it pretty much is Revive. I mean, it feels like Revive. You take out the long, windy technology track thing, but everything else feels the same. You have a little piece that you slot into an action slot. If you upgrade said piece, you get bonuses when you do it. Trigger the action. These let you build buildings on a map and move meeples around a map, as well as, you can get like upgrades for your board. You can tech up effectively. You can get these little ability discs that when you get these gadgets with other bonuses, you can trigger them. I mean, is all this sounding kind of familiar? Yeah, because Revive basically did the exact same thing. That being said, this one is better than Revive. For me, anyway. I bounced off Revive. Revive was a 6 out of 10, and at the time I reviewed it, and personally I think it's probably dropped to a 5 now. It is streamlined, but not to the point where it's an easy game to play. There's still plenty of rules overhead. The rulebook is not perfect. It takes a little bit to get through, and, there's still a lot going on. But they have trimmed out some of the fat, so you are left with something a bit more intuitive in some ways. Your board is kind of as it was for Revive. You lose those long, windy technology tracks, but the whole thing of here's an action, slot it in, you can upgrade the action, you can upgrade the key that goes into it. You can certainly tailor your strategy in very specific ways and, do what you did in Revive, and that bit is all fun. You've got these buildings here, and the buildings give you different effects. I don't like the way income works in this, because when you take off these buildings, they show an income below it, and you think, oh yeah, if I build more stuff, I get more stuff. No, because when you recall, which is getting your keys back, basically, it's just getting back your workers and stuff, you actually only trigger as many of these income slots as you have these keys. So the game is basically saying, unless you have a really good strategy in the game, which granted, I did manage to find a really good strategy a game to the point where I could win. But if you are not able to come up with a good strategy, you need keys. I mean, or you're going to have a very and not as fun a game if you don't. Because the thing is, everybody else is having to take, you only get like 13 turns in the game. It's another one of those type of games. And you effectively, like, you're going to recall at some point, but the others were getting extra keys, so they didn't have to recall as much. And if your turn is just to recall, it's a pretty basic, boring turn. So I'm having to recall every third turn in a game where I've only got 13 turns. That's not particularly fun. And all I can do is trigger 2 of these little income slots. And it doesn't matter that I've built half my houses or whatever these vaults things were and stuff like that. No, I can only trigger 2 of them because I've only got 2 keys. Why be so restrictive? That doesn't make any sense. Thematically, I don't get that. But, well, as if this game has any theme anyway. The theme is completely lost after the first 5 seconds of rules explanation. But, the ability stones and all these little gadgets you can get, I mean, you can really get a lot of little bonuses. It does feel, compared to something like Covenant or To Buy, it does feel more fulfilling. Like, you're getting a lot of little rewards, as opposed to, like, one big reward. And that always feels good. The tribe system is interesting. You rise up these tracks, you get a different gadget from a pile, but mainly you unlock the tribe card itself, which has another ability that if you're high enough up the track, you can utilize as well. It's neat, adds a bit of variety, but it's not game-changing. Other than that, it's kind of standard affair. Here's some objectives to get your victory points for. Here's the map where your meeples move along and you put buildings down, the terrain matters, that kind of thing. Here's those chests with a bonus that you unlock as a free action. Gems, you can have basic gem, middle gem, and big gem, and they're all the same color, except when you put them on your board, they're purples and reds and oranges. Why they couldn't afford... I mean, the game cost 70 friggin' euro, okay? It was expensive, alright? And you can't afford different colored gems. You have to basically have this weird system where you put it on the board and then it's that color. I mean, come on, that is cheapskates. A few other things, collect cubes and put them on your board for bonuses. Like I say, the theme is gone within 5 seconds. But, that being said, I did enjoy it. There's a lot of AP potential and a lot of downtime, so that is the problem with these types of games. These ones that have you do your whole turn and chain a ton of bonuses together. You are going to be sat waiting. A 4-player game of this is probably more than I would like. I think a 3-player is going to be the sweet spot again. See if it scales down to solo and 2-player. We'll see how those modes work. I hear the solo is pretty good in this, so we'll see. But I did enjoy this more than Revive. But I came from Revive not liking Revive as much. So, if you are somebody who adored Revive, I suspect you will probably adore this just because it basically feels like Revive 1.5. But I think this is a more sort of an easier one to get into than Revive. And some people actually think it's the opposite. They think this one's harder to get into than Revive. I don't understand that at all. Revive was like everything in the bloody kitchen sink. At least this one knows how to pull itself back a little bit. Maybe it's because the map is a lot more interesting. The map in Revive is boring. Like, there's so little with that, and you have to get to the end of the map to get those bonuses at the end because they are just, like, broken levels of points. To be fair, I did get to an end of this map which got me broken level of points with things I was doing as well, but it's not quite as bad, although it was still quite noticeable. But yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed it so far. I'm looking forward to getting it out properly, playing it solo, get back into it. I'm going to have to relearn half the rules because it was a bit of a short, a teach from somebody who'd only sort of played half of it or just learnt the rules. So we were going maybe a little bit slower in that regard, but it wasn't too bad. I was wondering, okay, is this just going to be another kitchen sink thing? And certainly there's a lot of mechanics in it, but I don't know, I liked this one okay. I think it's better than Revive. But I don't think it's the best thing since sliced bread yet, so we shall see. I am not obsessed with, these designers for doing Revive, for example. So I'm going to come in this with an open mind and see what happens. What else have I played? Nothing else that I can really give impressions on. I mean, I played To Buy. I taught games of that, 2 games of that, actually. And you can check out my full review, please, for that one. I know it's a long review, but it's detailed, it's segmented. You can watch what you need to watch. What else did I play? Obviously played SETI, because I was playing, getting the space agencies plays in. So, yeah, that was great fun. Playing... Who did I play? I wasn't a fan of the corp I was playing. I was playing the one that gives you a signal token at the start and, gives you a signal token as income. So I was doing a lot of scanning. It was very difficult to catch up to a person who was playing the one who has 2 probes out at the start of the game and stuff, because I just think that corp is a little bit busted. But certainly with the setup cards he had, it got even more busted. But I was able to catch up to him just. I won by a point. I mean, I must have had a Guardian Angel or something like that, but I was doing well with one particular alien, the Arcos alien. I focused hard on it, and it got me a lot of points in the end game to catch him up. But for a long time, he was basically rocketing ahead. So, yeah, but that was a still good, fun game nonetheless. Let's see, played Aya, because obviously I was getting the review, the plays in for that one. You can check out my review when it comes out. I'm not going to say any more on it at this point, because the review will be coming out this week. So, we shall see how that one does. What else? What are the big games? Oh, and as I'm always happy to teach this one, finally... Wondrous Creatures. Yes, my friends wanted to learn this one. They love card tableau games with combos and stuff, so I thought this one's right up their street. I gave it a 9 out of 10. Check out my full review for this one. This is a fantastic game, and I have great fun every time I play it. My friends, local, love it so much. They get their kids to play it, so we get to play this one. I mean, it's kind of this one and Earth that are the 2 we regularly play when we see each other as a group. They love these 2 games. I love these 2 games. They are great. But I was finally able to teach them, and we had good fun. Yeah, they enjoyed it. One of the players got obsessed with playing the wild tingent robot as a player character, so yeah, she got that one. But yeah, they just fell in love with the. I mean, as one falls in love with the combo play, the girl falls in love with all the pretty pictures of all the different things, and there are some weird and wonderful pictures in this game. But yeah, I mean this one here, this one basically looks like a monstrous radish. It's just like, what is this thing? You got to imagine that the artist basically just like smoked some drugs before they said, right, now let's come up with a bunch of Pokemon-esque creatures. Oh, Helena, that was the character I was playing actually. Um, but yeah, you got to think that somebody was on drugs when they came up with half of these creatures. I mean, they're great. I love it. The artwork is gorgeous. These creatures are so imaginative. But yeah, what I mean, I want whatever you were smoking. All right, I want whatever you were taking to make up these pictures. Because I mean, only if it gives me the same artistic skill to be able to draw them as well. But yeah, I love this game, and word on the grapevine is that expansion material is being planned. So I look forward to that if that's the case. So yeah, I mean, if this game gets more content, I'm not going to complain. This game is excellent, and this one and Life of the Amazonia, which is literally right there as I point to it, and I don't have it in my collection anymore, but Shallow Sea was also really good. I didn't keep Shallow Sea because I already own Cascadia, and I get Cascadia to the table more than Shallow Sea because of people I know, and I can play it with the parents and stuff like that. So I decided that Cascadia was the one I would keep. They are very similar games, but they are different enough. Yeah, one is more concerned with the tile placement and linking up with bonus tiles, whereas Cascadia is, you already know the things that score in the first place. So there are differences, but yeah, Shallow Sea is another type of game like Cascadia, and I thought I only need one of those in my collection, so I decided to keep Cascadia. But that's not a dig on Shallow Sea. Shallow Sea is a great game as well. I mean, in terms of ranking, probably Wondrous Creatures is the best, Life of Amazonia is my next favourite, and then Shallow Sea. These are still three great games from Bad Comet, all right? So I'm definitely, they are definitely on my list of, what are they going to come out with next? So they're doing good. But yeah, so Gridcon was good fun. If you do get a chance to go to it, it's not easy if you're a member of the public, because tickets are limited. I mean, I suspect he wants to expand at some point. Good luck. I mean, it's not easy, but yeah, it will be interesting to see how this convention goes. They do a massive charity raffle. I never win anything on the charity raffle. I am the unluckiest person when it comes to raffles. I never win any time. So why do I pay for them? Because they go to charity. That's pretty much it. I just use a charity raffle as an excuse to give to charity. I already give to the National Trust. So, our environmental National Trust. So I'd give to that one. Got the sticker on my car and everything. But yeah, and the card in my wallet lets me park for free and stuff. But yeah, I give to that charity. But yeah, the charity raffles are a good excuse for me to say, oh, what charity are you supporting? Cool, I'll buy you a bunch of tickets. I'm not going to win. I know I won't win, but you take some of my money. So it's a good thing in there. Yeah, good convention. Enjoyed it, and look forward to next year. Right, well, let's talk quickly, hopefully, famous last words, with the topic of the day. As I drink more of my morning coffee. Right, so, what topic have we got? I got a lot of tabs open. You might have noticed if you're keen-eyed at the top of the screen. There's a reason for that, because these are all examples. Basically, it's a very quick question, but it came up as I was discussing Covenant, first impressions with people on Gridcon Slack channel. The debate came up as to whether people like the fact that you don't get a lot of turns in the game. So it's not just like, oh, do you like games with very few turns? I think the debate was more if you prefer games with a fixed number of turns, or do you like variable endgame triggers? I personally, as a summary, prefer variable endgame triggers. Now, there seems to be a trend lately with games where you have a very few number of turns. Very finite. I mean, Recall, as I said, you only get 13. Covenant, you only get 12. To buy, you only get 10. Or fee buy. Sorry, not to buy, fee buy. Apologies. But yeah, it's literally 13, 12, 10. I mean, you get very few turns in the game. And yet the games can go on for easily 2.5 to 3 hours. Easily enough. And you're expected to basically combo-tastic every turn to make it worthwhile. Now, these type of games I'm a little bit on, because I like to have a lot of turns. I like to be kept involved in the game. And the problem with a game that only gives you a few turns and expects you to do it all in one big lump is that you've then got to wait for everybody else on the table to do the exact same thing. And that causes very high analysis paralysis potential, because people have to think hard about how to do their turn. And there's a lot of things they got to juggle. There's always a lot of options, or shall we say, things that have long-reaching ramifications. But then you also have the downtime, because if somebody after you triggers about 20 different things on their turn, they've got to try and think, right, hang on, I'm doing this, which I'm doing that, which flips that card, take that token, so that token can now be used to do this action, right? This action allows me to do this, right? Now I can fulfill a contract. This contract lets me do this and flip and do that action, and now this dwarf can go here, and my inlet jewel on here can be used. That gets me another one of these things, right? Which one do I want? And it takes forever. It gets on my nerves, and it's the same problem that all of these games have. Covenant, Phoebe, and Recall, all of them have this exact same problem, and none of them do anything to sort it out. And they could easily find a way. You could split turns up, you could split phases up, you could find a way to make the downtime in AP less problematic, but they just don't. And it's a common problem, and every single one of these games I play repeats it all the time. Now, that's a more specific side of the coin here, side of the equation here, because these are games with finite turns, like very few turns. I'm not necessarily debating the games that only have a few turns. We're more looking at the fixed turns versus variable turns. Now, all of these games are fixed. You know exactly how many turns you're going to get in the game, and you know exactly how desperate each one is, which is what causes a lot of the AP in the first place. If you don't know how many turns you're getting, you're not necessarily thinking quite as hard about the long-term ramifications of what you do, because you don't know how long the game's going to go. And this is a bunch of like examples of games that showed that I wanted to kind of showcase to explain what I'm on about. But I personally like variable endgame, but there is a difference with them. So let's look at some games first with the fixed number of turns. And these are games that I generally like or find a bit ho-hum. I'm going to try and do both sides of the coin if I can. But for the most part, they will be ones I like. So I already mentioned Covenant. So Covenant, fixed amount of turns, and this one is, is your, oops, sorry, picture's not up. There we go. So you got your 12 turns. You've got to do all these different things like transporting goods and building on this map and all that sort of stuff, typical Eurofare. But you know that you've only got so many turns. And it's not a lot of turns. And you know that if you want to win this game, you need to do a lot on your turn. So you think hard, you take forever, and then if you do well, your turns are going to take forever. And this one, as I say, the fixed number of turns pigeonholes you into that kind of thought process of every turn must count. Whereas if you don't know how many turns you've got, you don't necessarily place such reliance on it. And that's kind of something I quite like. Other games, though, that I do love with fixed turns, we talked about SETI. Well, SETI doesn't have variable turns. Although, you could argue that this one is a slight variation, because yes, you have a fixed number of rounds, but how many turns you take in a round is still dependent on how well you're doing. There is a little bit of downtime if you're waiting for somebody to hurry up and finish a round and they're doing better than you are, but I might take 10 turns in a SETI round. I might take 5. I might take 15. I don't know exactly how many I'll take. So you're not necessarily planning out every single turn for a round. You're thinking, well, what do I need now? What's the immediate short-term thing I need? And how many turns is it going to take me to do this? You got all the options, so you go with that. But yeah, this one is technically a fixed number of rounds, and I don't mind. I think the fixed number of rounds I'm more okay with than fixed number of turns, because the difference between Covenant and SETI here is that Covenant gives you 12 turns, because you have 4 turns in a round. That is fixed. It is fixed entirely in stone. No pun intended, it's a dwarf game. But the SETI, you don't know how many turns you'll have. It's 5 rounds fixed, 4 if you play with the expansion, but it's not fixed how many turns you have. So it feels more fulfilling if you end up with more turns in a round. You get that sense of, I must be doing a bit better because I've had more turns. But because you don't know exactly how many turns you have, you don't necessarily think crazy hard about the turn you're about to take. So I think this works better. Have fixed rounds, but variable turns is still good. Let's take my my love child as it is, Ark Nova. I think I'm up to 195 plays of this. It's kind of ridiculous. I just played another game on BGA with my friend. I mean, we're just playing two-player games of it all the time, all the week. So I get the plays in for this game as a two-player, but still play at the club at four-player every now and again. But yeah, Ark Nova doesn't have fixed rounds at all. It has variable rounds. Variable turns, because you don't know how long the game's going to take full stop. Because it may take 20 turns, may take 30, may take 50. You don't know. Now, some people maybe class that as a problem because they don't know how long the game's going to go. Although, with that sense, in some games where I've not been enjoying myself as much, I may actually get into the point where it's like, look, I've got an idea of the game. I don't know if I'm going to win or not, but at the end of the day, this game is dragging on too long. You know what? I'm going to do a couple of actions that are going to end the game quicker. Because you do get some people who will just drag out the end game timer, and I'm like, okay, seriously, I don't know if I'll win or not. I'm in a good position. I think this game needs to end, so I might try and trigger the end game condition. Especially, I mean, if it's a game I hate, I will definitely try and trigger the end game condition a lot quicker. But with Ark Nova, you don't know how many turns you're going to get at all. I mean, if you play solo, you know you're only going to get 20 turns. Don't often play this solo. I play it with other people. Or I play against the AI on the Steam app. So how many turns I get is unknown. So each turn, I don't necessarily need to think, oh, what do I do on this particular turn? Or I've got to think really hard about this in AP. It's like, no, I know that in Ark Nova, right, I've got a short-term goal here. I need to go get... oh wow, somebody's put all the maps on BGG. That makes things a bit easier for my purposes for doing a tier maker. But yeah, I might think, right, well, I need to get the association card flipped. Right, in order to do that, I need to build this enclosure, put this animal down. This will give me a green point, which will enable to get me 2 green points, so I can flip a card. Then we can make that association, and then I can start doing other stuff. Right, so my plan is build, animal, flip. Cool. And it doesn't take that long for me to think of that little short-term goal, and then you play out the motions, and then you think of the next short-term goal, while still having some kind of a long-term plan, depending on your starting objective. But because I'm not sort of going, right, I've only got 15 turns this game, each turn must count, I'm not freezing in place to try and make every single turn amazing. I will take turns in Ark Nova that I literally just move a card down and get an X token. Because if that X token allows me to do something cool in the next turn, I will write that turn off as, hey, whether it was bad planning or maybe it's just a means to an end for the greater good, I will do it. And it works. Yeah, I much prefer this sort of style. And because you trigger the end game, and this is the other thing, there's two, well, let's talk about another part of this. There's 2 types of variable end game. You've got the variable endgame where a player is responsible for triggering it. You've got the other one, which is it's random. I personally do prefer the ones that are player dependent, and this one is player dependent. If somebody triggers the end of the game by getting their markers to cross, the player did that, and you can see it coming. You know that player is going to trigger that, and you can probably guess when they're going to do it, so you plan at that point. But that I do prefer to maybe the opposite side of the coin, which is probably something like Spike. Spike, fun little game, sort of Ticket to Ride with a little bit of extra stuff in it, cheap and plasticky and stuff like that. But you do deliveries, and it's a train game like anything else. But it's a very light sort of Ticket to Ride. Much like Forest Shuffle, which is that is variable, it is random, but you don't have a clue when it's going to turn up. Because in this one, in both of these games, you have 3 cards shuffled into the last part of the deck, and basically they're the ticking time bomb endgame trigger. So the first one comes out, nothing happens. Second one comes out, you're like, oh crap, the game's going to end any time now. Now you don't know when that third one is going to turn up. That third one could turn up at the very bottom of the deck. It could turn up literally in the next hand. That one at least I like because it adds a bit of tension to the game, because you're like, oh Christ, I don't know how many turns I've got. Do I dare push my luck hoping I've got more turns, or do I wrap up now and try and hurry up and do what I need to do? I like that in games. It's a cool tactical thing that makes me have to think about something else or adapt to the situation. But you can also argue that because it is entirely random when it happens, and it typically ends the game stone dead at that point. Sorry, but mill it. It's a slightly swollen lip from yesterday, and I keep biting it. But yeah, so I like it, but you can argue that it's more random because you don't know when it's going to trigger, and when it does trigger, you won't have had even turns. And I think that's one thing that gravitates people to the fixed round, fixed turn format. They're opposed to having uneven turns. I get that. You may feel, well, if I had one more turn, I could have done this. And it's like, yeah, but everybody's in that same boat and you knew it was coming. So you prepare for it and you kind of just accept it's a thing. But I still prefer it to be variable. So I got one less turn. It happens, it's not often I get to a point where one turn made that much difference, because you could argue that if I'd just been more efficient, I wouldn't have needed an extra turn. So, there's aspects that you could argue to and fro on it. What other ones have I got here? Well, Spirited's another example, so now I can actually talk about this game. With Spirited, they have a similar endgame trigger. So with this one, you play the game, you flip cards and using animals, but in the deck is free passing of time cards. Every time you cycle through the deck, you're moving this time tracker effectively 3 spaces at a time, but when it gets to the end, you know that the last time you cycle through the deck, it's going to be the last time, and again, third card comes out, end the game. So, there is variable endgame triggers in that, and again, you won't get even turns. If you're not comfortable with that, then, the game may not be for you, but again, I like that tension of thinking, oh, the game is going to end anytime soon. Will I get a chance to do something? Now, it's a bit of a pain if, it's just come out for that player. Right, well, hopefully if I get one more turn, that's fine. And then it comes out on the very next player. That can happen. It's a fact, it's a facet of that mechanic. And if you don't like it, fair enough. I still, it doesn't happen often enough that I get that problem. But the times it works nicely for me, having that extra tension and that adaptive nature, I still like it. But, not gonna lie, I would prefer the player-dependent one. So the Arc Nova style of ending variably versus this mechanic, I prefer the Arc Nova way of doing it. Player-dependent triggers. What else? What else did I have? Lost Ruins of Arnak. No, that's a similar deal to SETI. I mean, I could have brought it up back then. So SETI has fixed number of rounds, but you don't know how many turns you have. Lost Ruins of Arnak, 5 rounds, always 5 rounds. You don't know how many turns you'll have, though. I like these games where it's do as much as you can and then pass. Because, you're thinking, well, I need to be efficient, so I should think about what I'm doing. But because it's not a fixed number of turns, you don't AP forever on it. It's just a natural way that these games go. As soon as you know that everything is set in stone, fixed, determined, that's when people freeze up and take too long. It's just a natural trigger. And Phoebe and Covenant and Recall have the exact same problem. They have high downtime in AP because of the nature of their games. And, Recall, there's nothing much you could do about it. Covenant, there's nothing you could do about it. Phoebe could have actually solved the problem. They have a whole turn with multiple, 2 major phases in it. You could have split those phases apart and the game would have functioned just fine and you would have had more regular turns. But no, they kept everybody's turn in one big lump and it's like, you missed a trick. You missed a trick. But, check out my review, obviously. What other games to showcase? Lords of Waterdeep. One of the earliest games for worker placement. Fixed number of rounds, though. But again, in this one, I think it was a... Oh, no, what? No, it was sort of fixed. I mean, that one's based on how many workers you have. And everybody gets the same amount of workers. So I guess that one is more of a fixed game. Because you know how many rounds there's going to be. You also know how many workers you have. So, yeah, that one is more of a fixed number of turns. You tend to get more turns in that game than you do in some of these other ones, not just 10, but, you know what's going to happen and you have to plan for that. It does cause a little bit of AP at times because of that, but I think if you're going to make it a fixed number of turns or a fixed number of rounds, then give us more turns to play with, I guess. If you give me 30, 35 turns and say that's your fixed number of turns, but you got 30, 35 of them, I mean, go nuts. Then fine, but you tell me I've only got 12 and every single one is critical, then you're going to cause these freezing problems. What else on this argument? Galactic Crew, well, these are more the variable triggers. So I mean, mentioned Wondrous Creatures before. Wondrous Creatures is a variable trigger as well, but again, it's player dependent. Who takes the last trophies? So these ones are definitely variable endgame triggers, and again, they're player dependent. So, well, Galactic Cruise, you know, as the players play through this game, they will place cubes on the progress tiles, and these progress tiles determine when the game ends. So it's group dependent when the game ends. Works so much better than if they did a fixed number of turns. I like the fact that the game will carry on, you'll get plenty of turns and things will progress and you're not thinking too much, but then when it gets to the end you gotta think, oh Christ, can I actually get everything I need to do finished? You know, that sort of twist ending is what I like. Even Catan, you know, one of the earliest Euros is in that vein, because it's player dependent. You know, who gets to 10 victory points first? You can see how many victory points people have got, so you know it's going to creep up soon. But will they get you by surprise, or will it be inevitable, or can you react to stop them at that point? You have information, but you know that the game is going to end at some undetermined point. I think it just makes it better. Chaos in Your World, similar deal. Who gets their dial to the very end first, you know, when they're trying to level up their faction and stuff. Same deal there. Civilization A New Dawn, it's effectively a race. Who achieves those main achievements, like the 3 or 4 achievements you got to do in the game. I've got the expansion, so it's got slight change. But yeah, who achieves them first? Player dependent. You can see what people are doing. You know that the clock is ticking, and that ticking is getting louder. Can you be the one that like stops the clock? You know, it's that kind of thing. Oops, sorry, just a bit there. And Earth, similar deal. You know, who's going to play their 16th card? And I suppose what I'm getting from all of this is that, you know, at the end of the day, which ones do you prefer out of variable endgame triggers or fixed determined rounds and turns? And if it's going to be variable, do you like player dependent ones, or do you like the random, I don't know when it's going to take place one? I do prefer variable endgame triggers to fixed determined turns. I mean, fixed determined rounds is fine if I can have multiple turns in the round. But saying that I've only got like 10, 12 turns in the game is a turn off. It's not a fun concept to realize you only have so many turns in the game, but you're going to be stuck there for a good nigh on 3 hours. But the fact that it causes people to freeze up and AP, and then you've got the downtime in between turns, they all have this problem, and it sours the experience of those types of games. I mean, a light game that's got a fixed number of turns, fine, but they're light, they're short, and they're going to be light enough that you don't need to think so hard about what it is you're doing. You know, so it's not quite, you know, such a big deal with those games. But yeah, you give me a variable endgame trigger, particularly one that's player dependent. I mean, I like the random, like, ooh, the ticking clock type thing coming out of the deck. That's fun. It's cool. It's tension. But you still get a bit of that tension with the player group dependent ones. But yeah, the game is player group dependent. I mean, if you want to make it so that when you do it, you have even turns, that's fine. You still had even turns. I don't mind if you just end the game outright, frankly. But if you want to make it so that you finished a round and then do one more round, that kind of thing, then cool. But at least you still didn't know how many turns you were going to get from the get-go. And you still may not necessarily know how many turns you're going to get at a certain point. It's like, we're nearing the end game. I might have 2 turns left. Might have 3. If I'm lucky, maybe 4. What do I need to do right now? And it's something that I like in games, and that's why I prefer variable player dependent endgame triggers as opposed to fixed number of turns, fixed number of rounds. Fixed number of rounds fine, multiple turns, but fixed turns, fixed rounds entirely, I don't know, they kind of sour me a bit. So I'm interested to know what you thought, what you guys think. Do you agree with those? Do you got any other games you want to use as examples, like some of your favorites for why you love fixed turns, or why you like variable turns, or random endgame triggers, that kind of thing? By all means, put some other suggestions. And yeah, what do you think in general? What's your opinion on this topic? So that's it for me on this episode of the Broken Meeple podcast. I'm going to sign off now and get this edited for Sunday morning release. Don't forget to check out my Essen content. I've been talking about various games like Feeby and that, but even some of the other games that I've chatted about. I mean, Earth, What was it? Yeah, we got Earth, Galactic Cruise, Covenant eventually, SETI with the and the SETI expansion, Ark Nova and the Ark Nova expansion, Lost Ruins of Arnak expansions, and originally the game, Forest Shuffle, Spike I did ages ago. God, that was an old review, and stuff like that. I have done content on these games. So if these games are of interest to you and you've only just heard about them or you want to know more, go look at my history. I've done the reviews at some point, even if they're some of my older ones. So yeah, by all means, check them out. But hope you look forward to the future content I've got planned. Next podcast will be in 2 weeks' time. I might be slightly hungover. I don't know. No, it should be all right. It's just, I think in 2 weeks' time, which will be the 13th, 14th of December. I've got a Christmas do I'm going to on the 12th, and bottomless brunch I'm going to on the Saturday. So I'll certainly maybe be a little bit hungover on the Sunday morning, who knows. But I should be able to do a podcast for that Sunday. That should be fine. And then that will be the last podcast before Christmas. I will sign off and resume back in January, because obviously 2 weeks from there will be what would that be? The 28th? Don't really want to do a podcast when I'm home with the parents. That's not really going to happen. So so next podcast will be the last of 2025. Will I be bothered to do a Christmassy thing for it? I don't know. I don't know enough games that I would want to play around Christmas. I don't take Christmas that seriously, really. I mean, Christmas is basically an excuse to go visit the parents, get a massive roast dinner, and have some family time off. I can do that on any weekend of the year. I don't need Christmas to do it. Except Christmas, I have to put up with some weird, specials on TV. I have to put up with the fact that nothing is open, and I have to put up with god-awful Christmas songs. Hey, call me a Grinch if you like, all right? It's like, I don't get that hyped about Christmas. It'll be cool to see the family and get a cool roast dinner. Yes, I can do that any weekend of the year. So, in fact, I did it the last weekend when they visited before Gridcon. They came up here. We went out for a roast dinner, so I got the exact same thing, and I didn't have to listen to cheesy music. Anyway, I'm going off on a Christmas rant. I'm going to sign off. Like I said, take care. Remember, it's only a game, and remember, it's only Christmas. I don't know. Take care. Bye for now.